Welcome to In the UMAVerse. This is the first production by Urban Media Arts. I am the Director of Civic Engagement, Sharon Fillyaw, and we have a very special guest with us today. But first, I'd like to introduce our panel. I'm going to have them self-introduce, starting to my left with the wonderful Mr. Ron Cox.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I'm Ron Cox, former Executive Director of UMA, formerly known as MATV. And now I'm retired and I'm really enjoying myself.
That's great. And to your left is our Director of Operations, Mr. Terlonzo Amos.
Terlonzo Amos. I'm kind of shy, so keep this nice and brief. So now, your turn.
I'm Josephine Royal, formerly of MATV and UMA. And let me tell you something, we're going to have some fun.
And so, In the UMAVerse is going to be a series of broadcasts where we highlight different aspects of the Malden community. Our very special guest, Josephine Royal, is going to kind of start this, and we're going to talk about all of her work here at MATV, which was the former name of Urban Media Arts, and what an important component she was to this organization. So, Ron, get us started with what you remember about the beautiful Miss Josephine.
Well, I remember when she first walked in the door, it was part of this program where we had the ability to hire senior citizens. And it was part of this program. I forget the name of it. Do you remember?
MySEP.
MySEP.
Mm-hmm.
And she was hired, and she started out answering the phone, I think, as part of her job.
Absolutely.
And from then on, she just got involved in every aspect of what MATV is all about. And that's what I think is so great about Josephine, is these stories you're going to hear is how she really dived into everything we're about. And I often say to people, when you look up what community media is, it's Josephine Royal.
I came to MATV through MySEP. It was a program that actually my husband pushed me to go to because I kind of was shy because of a certain reason, and I kind of walked through the door because I got a phone call from Claire Murray at Cyber Cafe. She said, go down there. They're looking for someone. And I had been waiting for a phone call. And when I got down to MATV at the time, I met with Ann and Terlonzo, and I walked in there. My hair was blonde, strawberry blonde, down to my shoulders. And I had shorts on and a striped t-shirt, and I said, Claire, I'm dressed like this. She said, just go down the way you are. And I always say, I like to be real, and that was truly real, let me tell you. And I said, try me out. If you don't like me, just get rid of me. I was thinking, gee, I hadn't worked in years because I had gone through brain surgery. And I figured I didn't have any talent, and I didn't know much about computers. I didn't know anything. And I was sort of waking up to everything, cell phones, everything. So when I got here and I looked around and I saw how booming this place was, I looked at the kids, I looked at the staff, I looked at everything. I said, you know what? You better pick everybody's brain. And that's exactly what I did. And I learned absolutely how I wanted to be and how I did not want to be. And I began to learn. And it was James that came along as a volunteer that I kind of clung to at that point because he was teaching a lot of stuff. And I learned from him many things. Because I didn't know, and I kept saying, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And I didn't know I was saying that, by the way. I had no clue that I was saying that. And I kept saying that, and eventually they said to me, I think it was around 2009, you ought to do a show.
So let me ask you this. Your show, Let Me Tell You Something, who encouraged you to do the show?
Terlonzo.
Oh, so Terlonzo, why did you encourage Miss Josephine?
Because she was talking all the time saying, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you that. So I said, why don't you have a show called Let Me Tell You Something? And she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to have any part of doing it. For whatever reason, I think because she psyched herself out and felt as though that she could not do it.
Right.
And then it was a few months later, she was like, you know, Terlonzo, I came up with this idea. I think that I should do a show. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a show. And I think I'm going to call it Let Me Tell You Something. And then I said, why didn't I think of that? So that's how that happened.
Who was your first guest?
I think, was it you?
No, it was that Ross Carpiano. It was the
Yes,
yeah, that was the person that was the
yes.
head of the MySet program
Yeah.
yeah.
One of them came on, and I got to tell you about the second one. It was
So you're going to tell us something.
Yes, I am going to tell you something. He came down in Studio B, and the one that was supposed to come didn't come. And Terlonzo was down in Studio B. This is a riot. And I could hear Terlonzo laughing and downstairs, because there was a little window that it was broken. And this guy was petrified because he wasn't supposed to be on.
Oh.
And he was playing with the wire, and I'm looking at him, and I said, what's he going to do, hang himself with this wire, what? And I'm asking him questions, and he just kept playing with the wire, and he kept fidgeting with the wire, and I was hysterical. I wanted to laugh so bad. I could hear everything, and he's laughing in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, like, what? Afterwards, I asked him, what were you doing with the wire? He said, I was so nervous. It was hysterical.
So earlier you mentioned how shy you were, Josephine. What was it about Let Me Tell You Something? Rather, let me rephrase that. What did you learn about yourself?
I learned when I sat in the chair, something came over me. Like now I'm talking, I became somebody else. Something inside clicked. And it wasn't like that I needed to have a script. There were reminders, don't misunderstand me. And I decided to do my show in a different manner, and I really did. I let people ask me, I would have the guests, you know, give me information, write any questions they wanted, and I let it be real and natural and just flow. And I wanted it to be tangible and real. And that's what I wanted. And because I felt that they had input that I had no knowledge of. And there was nothing that I could do that I could get from anybody by writing a script or anything of that nature. So I let it flow. And so with that being said, the shows went well.
Just let's talk a little bit about, you know, people, because you went kind of fast before, right to the idea of producing a show. It wasn't that fast. You went through really a process.
Yes.
And I think what's really interesting to me is you started out answering phones.
I did.
And then slowly you mentioned how you observed everything going on around here.
I did.
But you just didn't observe. You eventually got involved.
Yes.
What was the first things that you started doing? Because you didn't do the show right off the bat.
No, I
You got involved gradually.
well, things began to change a little bit around here. People were doing different things. James B. Got hired here. That was a funny one.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
Yeah.
that. And I became interim volunteer coordinator. And I also, when we had big annual meetings, I would get involved in that. I helped with the food. And I would go in. I had a blast retrieving food from different restaurants. I would go right into Anthony's, decorate the tables. I would have a blast with that. And I felt right at home doing that. It's something that clicked inside of me that came alive. I was able to get close to the volunteers. I had no issues in getting volunteers. Never for my show or anybody else's show. I was right up there with that. So I was able to go from receptionist to interim volunteer coordinator, reaching out into the community. I saw the need. See, what happened, I saw the need where it was needed here. Whether it was a coworker or somebody in the community, and I met the need. And I never like made a big deal of it. I just went and did it. I saw the need and I saw it and I did it, no matter what it was. And sometimes I was quiet about it, and sometimes I, was very boisterous about it because I had to be. That was the way that it was. And then when certain times arose, I went from one aspect to another, and then eventually I became office manager. And then I did podcasting and editing. When James taught me editing, I did Joseph Firecrow. That was a blast and a half. I saw that and I said, yeah, right. But we did that, and it was a treat.
Let me ask you this. Terlonzo was integral in the start of your production. How else what does Terlonzo mean to you as a coworker, as a colleague? Because you have a very special relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Terlonzo is like a son from another mother. He is. I love him dearly. I love everybody, but don't misunderstand. But if they ever needed me here, James, Ann, Ron, anybody, all they have to do is call me. I would be right here because I always took care of them as my own. Right. He's like a son from another mother. All they had to do is call me. I would come running.
Well, I have to thank you for the compliment. And just like my birth mother, you didn't listen to me either. So.
No. Never. Never. We went head to head sometimes, but I did it out of love. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
When I was executive director, one of the greatest things I think about this place was the diversity of staff.
Yep.
And what you brought to the staff was a different kind of way of looking at things in terms of you had this religious spirit about you, this need to sing.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how you fit in to the staff. How you felt.
I always played music, and I believe in setting a tone, and it was through music. And I did that, and I did it on purpose. And because I set the tone for music, and I'm a very sensitive person, and I sense when something's not right. And whether it's a co-worker or somebody that comes into the door, I sense, and I'm very sensitive, and I could feel. And if something's not right, I kind of back off, and it's like, yeah, right, I'm not going there. But anyway, I would always play music, and Haley would be in her office, and she would hear me singing in Asian, Chinese. And I learned it. I fell in love with the Asian, I just did. I traveled the world. I never left the United States, but I traveled the world in music. And I began to learn different styles of music, and I began to sing. And one day she come running out. She said, "Are you singing that?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I did that on purpose. And I set the tone in music. The spiritual side of me was something that was very deep. I stayed I'm not going to hide it. I believe in Jesus, and I stayed very close because I almost died. I wasn't supposed to be alive, and here I am today. I stayed very close, and I'll never hide it, and I'll never deny it. Wow. And I stayed very close because, and I brought that, but not to shove it down people's throats, because I wouldn't do that, because that's not the thing to do. But I brought it in a way of kindness.
Yeah, and it showed, and it became part of who we are as a team. And I've always admired that in you. And I think the other aspect, and we can't say it enough, is you were open to just soaking so much in. I mean, you could have just stayed answering the phones, but that's not what you decided to do. You want to soak everything in, learn as much as you can. And also, I think you really understood what we were doing for the community. Kind of let's talk about that, where you felt you're giving back to the community in so many different ways. You gave back to certainly the community here in Malden, gave back to MATV. Where's that coming from?
Well, first of all, it's very important when you live in a city to give back. Whether it's My Brother's Table, to the senior center, whatever you choose to do. I love this community very much, and this is my home. Yeah, I was born in Gloucester, Massachusetts, don't get me wrong, but this is my home. Anything I can do to help somebody, I will. And that's a part of who I am. I'll always give back to where I live. One day I was sitting out there and an idea came, and I created Coffee and Conversation. I couldn't continue it because of my husband. I'm not going to go there right now, but I couldn't continue in. I wanted that to run natural and be real. I didn't want a strict foundation. I wanted it to be an even keel. Maybe someday I'll get back to that. But I wanted to give in a way, and I wanted to use music with that, and I did that. I volunteered at Bread of Life, and I did that, and I loved it. I loved it because I love the people. I love to intertwine. I love another thing, the diversity. I don't know any boundaries of what color somebody is. I don't know. I wasn't taught that. I love people for whom they are and what they are. That's the way I am. I was brought up that way, and I can't help it.
You know, we're running out of time, but I do want to add, hear from you some of these stories you're talking about. We've got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
And there are some stories.
Yeah.
You've been around long enough to come across some incredible experiences.
Yeah.
Tell us about one of the floods
Yeah.
that we've had here.
That's a flood with I believe it was
Lentetta. It was Lentetta. He was interning here.
He was interning, and all of a sudden we were sitting out there. It was very quiet, and we could hear like a swishing sound. And he said, "What is that?" I said, "I don't know." And I went out in the hall, and the water was coming, and you two were golfing. And I called up, and I was yelling over the phone. I said, "I don't know what to do." And he came. We just got these lights, and they were on the high rise. And he went in, the kid, and picked them up because I couldn't have done that at the time. And he picked them right up, and thank you, God. But the water was coming in through the back door, and
It was torrential downpour.
it was right over my ankles.
Yes, yes. And I just want to say something for the viewing audience out there. When you said that me and Ron were golfing, I just want to make
Oh, it
it
was
clear.
a fundraiser.
I just want to make that clear that we were not goofing off. It was a fundraiser.
We were raising money for Bread of Life.
For the Bread of Life.
Life.
We were at Mount Hood, which is in
Exactly.
Melrose,
Yeah, yeah.
and it came down that hard since the 40 days and 40
Exactly.
nights incidents. And I remember it was just so much flooding. It was
Yep.
like I didn't think that we were going to make it because we were in different cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
But our cars almost got like stuck in. I don't want to even say it was a puddle. It was like an ocean.
No, it was,
Just to get here, so it took us longer to get here.
It was an ocean in
than
here,
we-
too.
Yeah, we really wanted to.
Well, we had comical things happen. I
But what
remember-
about with Haley? Like, you know,
Oh,
she, yeah,
Haley
yeah,
comes
the
in
Haley
the
thing,
after
yeah.
fact, and she puts her tiny little foot and takes a picture. I said, "Yeah, right." Yeah, right. She was comical. I love that girl. I love that girl. But you know, another time you were going to do a show. You fell off the
Oh.
ladder,
Oh.
and I come there and you go, "I gotta do a show." I said, "You're not gonna do a show. You're going to the
Yeah, but I-
hospital."
Let me tell this one.
Yeah,
Let me
good.
tell this one. Because Ron was doing his show, his award-winning show,
Yeah.
Let Me Tell You Something, that we affectionately call LOT. So Ron was doing the lights, and this is before that we have like these nice new
Yep.
lights. Ron was adjusting the lights, and I was in the control room doing his graphics. So all of a sudden, I heard like this big thud. I look up at the control room, and I don't see Ron on that ladder. So I come rushing in. Ron's on his back, looking at the lights, and the first thing I said is, "He told his last joke," because I thought he was. So then I went there, and so Ron survived that fall. But Ron was,
yeah, and I saved the light.
yes,
That's
but
amazing.
Ron was so insistent that he was going to do
the
that
show,
show,
right.
and then that's when you said, "No, I'm taking you to the hospital. You get in my car now."
I did.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So,
And he
yeah.
goes to me, "No, I got to do the show." I said, "Be quiet. You're going to the hospital. Get in my car."
And that was beautiful. You saved him from himself.
Saved
Oh
myself.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Is that the most memorable story? Is there one that tops that? Is that the one that sticks out most in your mind?
Oh,
of your
there's
experience
so
here?
many of them. I love them all. I love them all. I love the beauty of what took place. Oh, I remember one day the kids were outside. They were doing their thing outside, and it was open house showcase week, and I just was new. And there was nobody stopping by for these kids. So I went down and I found a purple wig. and I put some hat on, and I walked by with a wig, and I walked by, and I intertwined with the kids, and I loved it. I loved it because the kids.
That was the improv man in the street.
Yes, and they're our future.
Yes.
They're our future. Kids are our future, so you got to give to them. And that I was a firm believer in that.
That was Media Madness Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Open House Showcase was a blast.
Let's talk about that. You did so many things as part of that. You mentioned the food. There's also collecting the food. There was, preparing the food.
Yes.
And you work with a team of people like that.
They were awesome.
Let's talk about that.
They were awesome. The team of people that I worked with, they would come in, they would set up, I would help set up, and they would just work, and especially, what was his name?
Butch?
He had the, Butch.
Butch.
He goes, the army's here. He goes, the army is here. And I go, yeah, Butch. But he would bring in people through the back door, and they would help out.
Well, and then all the extra food
Yep.
you'd put together,
Yep.
and Butch would take it and give it to the Bread
Yeah,
of Life.
but they would help in a
Yep.
way that was, I never worried. I never worried because I knew it was being done. I knew the staff was being taken care of. And I got to learn how to do things that I never thought, I never imagined in my lifetime that I would do.
Did you surprise yourself?
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, yeah, right. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. Let me just say this. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and sometimes Ron and I disagreed, and it was like, yeah, yeah, get over it. But you know, I remember one time Ann is looking so pretty, and I go to look, she's got 2 different boots. I said, is that the camera, or is it, she really got 2 different boots? I said, yep, right, she's got 2 different boots on. And she just went on, and I just laughed. I said, this is beautiful.
Wow. How many years in total did you spend as a part of MATV now?
16 and a half years.
Does it feel like 16 and a half years?
No, it's like a blink of an eye. Wow. And then I was a part of a process with UMA. You know, picking the name, you know, what was happening, how it came about. But that was a short, you know, getting out, hello, this is Josephine, previously MATV, you know, now UMA. I couldn't get that out of my mouth.
You can't get it out of your mouth now.
No, but that was one thing that I did. And I was part of when COVID came, it was Terlonzo and I alone. And I was able to do podcasting and let people use my platform and do their podcast by phone.
That's right.
And it was that first day of the lockdown that we were in here, and Josephine was like, you know, Terlonzo, I think that I would want to do a podcast. And I'm like, well, let's learn to do a podcast now.
Yep.
I mean, everything's locked down, so, you know, if we're all going to go, at least we're going to go knowing that you know how to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So she jumped right in, rolled up her sleeves, and did that podcast. And that podcast was the only local program, the only week, I want to say, no, it was one of 2 local programs that was originating out of here, was that podcast. The other one was the Mayor's Weekly COVID Update.
Yeah, and then I was a part of that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Was there any particular production or someone that you spoke to that really touched your soul? Is there one interaction that you can think of in particular that the person really moved you?
Yeah, I was part of Paul Hamsley's, and I was a part of that, and I watched some of that. And that was
MOA, Malden Overcoming Addiction.
Malden Overcoming Addiction. My brother, that's a hard one. I hear so much of that nowadays. He went to Vietnam, and when he come back, he didn't come back right. And anybody that has an addiction like that they go through so much. And I my hat's off to anybody that starts a program like that and works through that. And I saw some people, and I thought to myself, gee, Lord, God bless these people. Really, God bless them, because that's why I crewed on that show. I crewed on that show because I knew that I knew in my spirit.
Well, part of the function of Urban Media Arts, formerly known as MATV, is to give a platform to organizations such as Malden Overcoming Addiction to help unify our community and to acknowledge different aspects of our community that may be overlooked. That may be overlooked, and one of them is the component of those that are battling and who are battling recovery, staying sober. So, so part of what we do here at Urban Media Arts within the UMAVerse is we want to showcase different aspects of the community, different people, different personalities, different backgrounds, to show that we're all one, and that working here at Urban Media Arts is something that anyone can do, right? Anyone can come here. You just need to be open to learning.
That's the thing. The one thing I feel is the seniors are overlooked. I always felt that. We have tried to work with the seniors. Brian and I created a program and went over there at the Senior Center. We created a program and we called it the Silver Fox and gave them certificates. And that's why I was very interested in that aspect going there. I used music to touch them, and I really used music for anyone there because they were not all speaking English. And I used music from all over the world to get to them, and that's what I did. I had one woman that was an interpreter, but beyond that was music. And sometimes I played the piano a little bit to them. And they came, but I feel that the seniors, much more than playing ping pong exercise, there's a lot of knowledge with seniors, and they can touch the hearts of many, both young and young at heart.
Indeed.
And I still feel that today.
Indeed.
And I think somewhere along the line, we try, but the ball gets dropped.
Yes, yes. So speaking of music, favorite singer?
Favorite singer?
Yep.
I have to say, he's a young man, he's from Korea. And his name is Kim Tae-young. And they call him V. And he is a smooth singer.
Favorite R&B?
R&B? What's her name? She's gone now. Oh, I can't think of her name. I can see her.
Can you name a
Aretha
song?
Franklin?
Aretha Franklin.
I can feel the vibe.
Favorite Aretha Franklin song?
Oh, Respect.
That is amazing. On that,
Well, let me just say that speaking of respect, the idea that you came in here very quiet, very within yourself, and you left here going out into the community, creating your own interaction with seniors and people of all ages through UMATV. That's a great arc, I think, for one's life. What's next?
Right now, I started to go get my credentials at church, and I started that. I got both Richard and I work with Richard, and we became members of our church. I didn't want to become a member at first for particular reasons. I'm funny about certain things. I'm very particular in what I do. Even here, I was very particular in what I was doing.
so Terlonzo, final words. How do you remember Ms.
Well, I just want to
Josephine?
make this real quick because I realize that we only have like about 60 seconds left in this show. So I just want to say that, Josephine, you know I miss you, you know I love you, and I will be talking to you. This is not goodbye. This is I'll talk to you later.
Exactly.
Josephine Royal, thank you so much for joining us here today, and thank you for joining us at In the UMAVerse. See you next time.